Hey, martial arts school owners and instructors, it's Dr. John Terry with the United States Martial Arts Hall of Fame. And I want to take a few moments and I want to talk to you about your martial arts business. Now, I'm not talking about the craft you teach. I want you to understand that you are an entrepreneur who has started a business, and martial arts is one of the services that you offer in your business. You are much, much more than just a martial arts instructor. You are an entrepreneur, and as an entrepreneur, there are important things you need to know about the business side of your business for it to have the opportunity to be truly successful. So, I want to take a few minutes and I want to highlight 7 common business mistakes that martial arts school owners make that may be sabotaging their own success. Now, as I go through these, you may discover that you too are making some of these 7 common business mistakes. Think of it like the proverbial banana peel. You step on it, and what happens? You either end up not moving forward to just stop and catch yourself where you are. And in that moment, you are stuck where you are, as you are, thankful you didn't fall, but you stopped moving forward. Or worse, you step on the banana peel and you lose your footing. And the next thing you know, you're either staggering backwards to catch your step or you've completely fallen down, embarrassed yourself, and potentially broken something in your business. Now, I want you to understand this as well. Under stress, when your business gets stressed and you get stressed in your business, you don't rise to the level of your potential. You're going to fall to the level of your systems. Now, Albert Einstein brilliantly said something I want to point out at the onset of this teaching. Albert Einstein said, "We cannot solve the problems that we created with the same level of thinking that we used to create them." Now, think about what he says. The world we've created is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. Now, I want you to think about that in your business. The martial arts business you have created is a process of your thinking. It cannot be changed, it cannot be improved, it cannot be enhanced unless and until you change your thinking. Now, you and I, we are all a product of our prior learning in the environment in which we were raised and in which we were trained in the martial arts. We likely do business the way it was modeled for us from the time we started training in the martial arts. And while many of the grand masters who paved the way for those of us that are living the dream of martial arts today, while they were great practitioners of the art, many of them were white belts when it came to running a business. And if you've not evolved beyond what you were taught there, guess what? You're a white belt too. So often understand this, our biggest challenge to have the opportunity to move forward in our business is the space between our ears. It's the inability to change our thinking, to stretch our thinking, to expand our thinking, to be willing to learn new things that allow us to grow and to become better at who we are and what we do. But I think Ray Kroc really sums it up best. Ray Kroc, the brain trust behind the McDonald's franchise, said this: "As long as you're green, you're growing. But once you're ripe, you start to rot." Now, I want you to think about that in your martial arts business for just a minute. Nobody wants to train with a rotten black belt. But if you earn your black belt and you never practice again, at some point your skill is going to get stale. You're going to become a rotten instructor. Now, by the same token, if you only learned white belt principles in running your martial arts business, all of a sudden, if you don't learn new skills that allow you to be relevant and allow you to expand and meet the needs of the clients you're serving today, you're going to become a rotten martial arts business owner. I want to make sure that you prevent that, and that's what this training is about. So as I get into today's teaching, I want to encourage you to open your mind and pay attention to what I'm about to share. I want you to ask yourself 3 simple questions. And here are those 3 questions. What can I learn from today's teaching? What can you take from what I'm about to share and learn something new? Second question, how do you apply something that you're going to learn to make you and your business better? So what are we learning? How are we applying it? And third, what can you take away from what I'm going to be sharing over the next few minutes and teach it to someone else? When we learn it and apply it, we have the know-how to then teach it to the other instructors and leaders in our schools and have them an opportunity to grow at the same time that you and I are growing. So let's jump right in and let's get started talking about the 7 business missteps that martial arts school owners often make that sabotage their own success. Now, there is success ahead. There is an opportunity for you to do more, be more, and become more, make a greater influence and impact right there where you are. And I think at the heart of every school owner is the desire to be more successful. You want to make a bigger impact. You want to reach more students. You want to expand what you're doing in your community. And every year, we envision this year being a better, more profitable year, a more influential year than the year before. We want to be known as the place where students can come to learn self-defense, to learn to compete at the highest level, to get their black belt and step into that unique 2% of the populace that makes it from white to black and really reach that hallmark where true learning can begin. We want to be known as the expert so that when the name martial arts is mentioned, your name comes to the top of everybody's thinking in your local community. And you are the go-to place to get quality training that shapes and influences and change lives for the better. But as a martial artist, remember the yin and the yang. Inside every successful opportunity, there is a small nugget of something else. And inside every failure that we face, there is a small nugget of something else. Inside every successful endeavor that we approach, there's a possibility we could fail. And inside every failure that we experience, there's an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to succeed. But understand this, failures can lead to missteps. Missteps, when we make a mistake in our business, when we mess up, when we fail to do something to adapt to changing market conditions, to be able to expand and do something different so that we remain relevant to what's going on in our community. As a result of that, those missteps can cause us not just to stop moving forward, it can cause us to slip, to fall down, or actually move backwards where we are less relevant and we're no longer known as the expert. And when martial arts is mentioned, your name is not mentioned in that conversation. Why is this important? Because you don't know what you don't know. And when you don't know what you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. Now, I want you to think about that for just a minute. When you don't know what you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. What am I saying? We're all creatures of habit. And once we've learned to do something, we have a habit of doing the same thing the same way over and over again. But when we begin to expect a different outcome by doing the same thing over and over again, Albert Einstein says that's the very definition of insanity. Understand that a misstep can and will happen in your life, and a misstep can lead to failure. So we either accept the fact that we're going to fail, or we accept the fact that we're going to fail our way to success. Now, if you don't believe that's true, ask Thomas Edison, who failed 10,000 times before he created the incandescent light bulb. You know, I love the way Henry Ford put it. He said, failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, but this time more intelligently. So what if you knew in advance where failure was likely to occur? What if driving down the road of success, you knew where the potholes were that had the potential to blow out the tires of your vehicle so you could avoid them? Would you want to know where those potholes are on the road? Would you want to know those missteps that if you know in advance and you can proactively address them, they don't sabotage your success? That's what we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about. We've looked at thousands of small and medium and large size school owners across the country. And we've also analyzed a number of entrepreneurial organizations that run on a very similar model to martial arts. And here's what we found. 7 common business missteps that happen among all of them. Even some of the largest corporations, if we study those, these same business missteps show up in the largest Fortune 500 company as well as the small mom and pop entrepreneur shop. So what are these 7 business missteps that we need to be aware of, and why are they important? Because if we don't know in advance they're potentially there waiting to sabotage our business, we may slip and fall. I want you to think of these missteps as banana peels lurking in your business that could slip you up and knock you down if you're not aware that they exist and you don't take some action to either pick those banana peels up and put them in the trash so you don't slip on them, or know where they are so you can avoid them. So here's my challenge to you as we dive into these seven. Take time to give an open, honest look at your martial arts business as we go through. Ask yourself if any of these seven exist in your business. Now, I want you to not just ask yourself, I want you to ask your team members. I want you to ask your students. I want you to ask your fellow instructors. I want you to ask the parents observing in your studio. I want you to see if there are any potential pitfalls, any roadblocks, or any saboteurs of success lurking in your business, like a ninja waiting to jump out and take you out when you least expect it. So here's number one. Number one is failure to differentiate. Now, what do I mean by that? If nobody knows who you are and nobody knows what you do and they don't know how you do it, guess what? You're the invisible man, you're the invisible woman. But if all they know is that you teach martial arts, whether it's karate, kung fu, judo, jujitsu, taekwondo, pick the style, if all they know is you're a martial arts instructor, well, guess what? You are seen as just the same as everybody else in town. There is nothing making you distinct and different from your competition in the marketplace. So if you're telling your story, that's great. But if you're only telling your story in a way that makes you sound just like everybody else, then guess what? You're no different than anybody else. Your goal in telling your story is to do so in such a unique way that you stand out, that you get noticed, and that you get ahead of your competition. In the eyes of the public, you're all the same unless you give them a reason to see you differently. That's why you hear me talking about 2025 being the year of being more than a martial artist. You've got to have a cause that you champion. You've got to have a mission that you're pursuing. You've got to have something that you're doing in your school that allows you to be unique and different, or you do something better than anybody else in town so you can stand out as unique and different in the marketplace. Now, you got to remember, your prospective customers, when they walk in the door, they've got a unique problem. They're either coming because they're being bullied at school, or they're coming because they're being bullied at work, or they're dealing with sexual harassment, or they like the idea of competition, or they've been watching UFC and they envision themselves being the next great UFC champion. Whatever it is, and for whatever reason they come, when they walk in the door, they're asking these questions. Number one, do you see me? Number two, do you hear me and what I'm telling you I want to achieve? Do you value me? Do you understand me? And can you help me? Those are the questions the customers are asking when they're walking the door, and you got to be able to answer each and every one of those. Because if you're not doing that, again, you're not standing out in the marketplace as unique and different. So how do you fix that problem? What is it that makes you different? What is it that makes you and your school unique? If you've never given thought to that, I encourage you to do so. You need to identify, as you're talking to prospective customers that are walking in the door that become students in your school, what makes you unique and different than any of the other martial arts schools in town, and why they should choose you over not just martial arts, but dance or swimming or archery or track or football or basketball or band or cheerleading or whatever else it may be that they're considering for their kids or for themselves. What is it you do that your peers or competitors don't do? Have you given thought to who your ideal customer is? Out of all the students you have in your school, if there's an area of expertise, maybe it's self-defense, maybe it's grappling, maybe it's team competition, whatever it may be, have you identified who is the ideal customer prospect for that part of your business? If not, and you're not marketing to that, you're using a shotgun approach, trying to be all things to all people, and you sound just like everyone else. Understand this. What you say in your marketing, what you say in your messaging, what you say in your presentations when they walk in the door and they meet with you for the very first time, and what you say in the sales process allows you to either distinguish yourself from everybody else so that you stand out as unique and different, or you sound just like every other martial arts school owner in town. You get to choose the outcome, but you're going to be delivering that outcome by the message that you're delivering. So I want you to understand there's riches in the niches. And if you can tailor a message that will speak distinctly to a subset of the population that you can best serve and support through your school, you're never going to lack for clients. Maybe it's a children's program. Maybe it's a kids program. Maybe it's a program for special needs children. Maybe it's a program for grappling and getting ready to go into the UFC. Maybe it's Krav Maga and you're teaching self-defense. Whatever it is, when you begin to focus on that niche, you're going to attract more of those type of customers. Other people who may somewhat be interested may come in and check you out as well and say, I'm interested in that a little bit, but what else do you offer? And from there, it gives you the opportunity to expand what you're doing. Now, the second misstep is poor planning and poor management. Guess what? Your clients and your customers need to see you as not only competent, understanding what you teach, but they need to see you and your school as organized and presentable when they walk in the door. They want to have confidence that the individual they're asking to help them, and that's you, can do so in a timely manner, in an organized manner, and are competent to deliver the results that they want. So, what are some telltale signs of poor planning and poor management? Wasted resources, missed deadlines, wasteful spending, ineffective communication, inefficient operations, disorganization, not having a plan each class for what you're going to teach, making mistakes in your training and having to correct yourself in front of your students, and a failure to help your students achieve their goals or to complete their rank advancements successfully. All of that speaks to the quality of your planning and your management and your instruction. This damages your reputation, it erodes customer trust, and as a result of that, it is another banana peel you got to be aware of. So, how do you address poor planning and poor management? You got to ask yourself, what's your business strategy? How do you effectively manage your time, your resources, and your talent to make sure that you're serving every student at the highest level? Are you using a project management tool? Are you using a CRM to be able to manage keeping up with your client records? Are you using a calendar or a scheduling system? Do you have a check-in system so that you're monitoring and make sure the students are showing up and getting the required hours they need for rank advancement test? Or are you doing it the old-fashioned way on pen and paper or simply relying on your memory? Do you create daily to-do lists and make sure those get done? Are you double checking that your staff that's going to be teaching knows exactly what's going to be taught and how you want it taught before everybody sets foot on the floor for classes that night? Those are just a few of the things that you need to think about in your business strategy. Have you thought about how you're going to present your program to a prospective customer that walks in the door? Are you prepared to handle their objections? Have you thought about what they might ask, and have you prepared an answer that allows you to position yourself as an authority figure, as an expert, and show your competency at the same time? Now, the third banana peel, the third business misstep is poor or no employee motivation. Understand this. Every single person on your team, including you, is a representation of your business in the marketplace. And when those that work for you aren't motivated and they're simply going through the motions on the floor just to get the required hours to get to their next black belt level or their next promotion, if you're working with colored belts that are higher level colored belts and giving them an opportunity to earn the hours towards their first degree black, are they truly doing it out of passion and purpose, or are they simply going through the motions to get the required hours to do what they want to do, and it's all about them and not the customer they're serving? That's important to think about because when you've got folks that are not motivated to help your students achieve their desired objectives, learning that kata, learning that movement, learning that self-defense technique, improving their sparring, getting ready for a tournament, whatever it is, those students are going to feel slighted, ignored, disrespected, and unvalued. There's a number of studies that show that poor employee motivation directly leads to decreased productivity, a lower quality output in what your students are learning, and it also creates higher employee turnover, increased absenteeism, and ultimately impacts negatively your company's bottom line. So think about that in your business and don't be willing to accept status quo as good enough. Every single day as martial artists, we need to be striving to become better than we were the day before. You want to leave an impression with your customers that says you care, you want them to see results, and you're invested in their success. So, how do we deal with poor motivation or no motivation at all? You want to create a culture of accountability. Understand that every student in that school are the individuals writing the paycheck that keeps that business open and functioning. Whether they're volunteer staff members or they're paid staff members, it is the students in the room and the tuition they pay every month that keeps the lights on, the doors open, the air conditioner blowing, and keeps that facility there for them to train in. The students in the room are the ultimate employer because without them, there would be no business. So, as the leader of the team, you want to make sure that you keep your team members that are part of your leadership team, you want to keep them engaged. You want to offer regular feedback on what they're doing well, where they can improve, and then give them some additional praise on the things you're seeing in their personal growth and development because what you reward is going to get repeated. That is so, so important. You want to empower your team members to teach, give them the autonomy to teach, and let them know these are the objectives you're going to measure them on. Not just the number of hours that they put in to help a student achieve a goal or an objective like a rank advancement or preparing for a tournament, but how well that student actually performs becomes weighed in how you're going to measure how effectively they're learning to teach. Now, I say all that, but let me say this. You, as the leader, must lead by example. My mentor, Dr. John Maxwell, says it well, people do what people see. And when your students and your instructors see that you're engaged and you truly care about your students, they're more likely to care about them as well. So what's the next mixed step? It is poor customer satisfaction. Now, here's a big issue that I see. Many school owners, when I talk with them, they tell me, John, I try to meet my customers' expectations so that whatever they've asked me to deliver for them, I see to it that they get it. Well, many of them do, some fall short. That's understandable, but understand this. If you're only striving to meet expectations, that's just the floor. Poor customer satisfaction. If your students don't feel like they're getting what they need and then a little more, at some point, they're going to become disenfranchised and disinterested in what you're doing. They're going to begin to look around for other places perhaps they can go train. Remember today, with the advent of social media, everybody's a critic. And when you've got a dissatisfied student that leaves your school, how easy is it for them to tarnish your reputation online? And all of a sudden, that goes viral in your community. Remember, trust is earned through a series of good experiences. But trust can be broken and irreparably harmed by a single failure to, at a minimum, meet expectations. So, how do we fix that? We ask our students, how are we doing? So, at the end of each class, maybe it's a simple thing like, did I meet your needs today? Is there anything I could have done to make today's class a better class for you? And periodically asking those questions, maybe not of every student, but getting some feedback from all of the students over time to identify what is it that keeps them happy and keeps them coming back. Again, remember, great organizations, great martial arts school owners understand that meeting expectations is the minimum. It's the floor. Exceeding expectations is not only what makes customers happy, it's what keeps them coming back. And more importantly, it not only makes them loyal customers, it makes them raving fans and walking billboards for your martial arts school. When you've got a happy customer that keeps coming back and you are exceeding the promises that you made to them, they're having an exceptional experience every time they walk in the door. All of a sudden, they're getting this dopamine dope at the end of class that their brain is telling them, man, this was another great class. I've got to come back and do that again. And guess what they then go talk about at school, at work, and in the community? The incredible experience they had in your school. That you've got to make sure happens every single time. So, how do you do that? You set the standard in your business that meeting expectations is the minimum, and you want to survey so you understand what you need to do to continue to up level success. Keep them happy, keep them coming back, because when you do that, they not only remain loyal, they become walking billboards for your school or your studio. Now, next on the list is insufficient resource allocation. Now, what do I mean by that? What I'm talking about here is, do you know what you have available and are you truly using those assets to your advantage? Now, here I'm talking about, again, technology to your advantage. If you're not showing up where your students are on social media, that's insufficient resource allocation. If you're not regularly communicating with your students, not just verbally through class, but posting on social media, sending them an email, having a system that can send text messages and engage with your students, again, insufficient resource allocation. Far too often today, we invest all of our money in pads, in equipment, and other things that we need for the physical training of our school. But remember, you're not just an instructor, you're an entrepreneur running a martial arts business. And you've got to bring your business into the 21st century so that you've got an opportunity to leverage the technologies and resources and tools available today so that you can serve your clients at the highest level. And I'll give you one example. If you're using a manual check-in system rather than a computer-based system, how much time is that taking that you're not engaging in quality training, or you're having to find somebody to do that for you that may or may not be doing it at their best? Technology can let us do what we do more efficiently. It can replace things that need to be automated that we're doing manually so we can spend more time doing what we love and what we're best at doing, and that's teaching martial arts. So, how do you solve that? Here's the question. Is this a best use of my time? Is this a best use of the resources that I have? Do I need to be using a manual system, or if I do the amount of hours I'm wasting doing that all through the month, could I go spend a couple of $100s to get a system that can automate that? And now all of my tracking, all of my hours are being kept up with. I know when students are there. I know when they're not. I can link that to my client management system. So if my students aren't showing up, it alerts me, and I can set up an automation system to reach out to them. I can also begin to make outbound calls, and I can do the things necessary to keep them engaged, show them I value them, show them they're important, and let them know that they're being missed at class. Can you use even simple technology like having a calendar link on your website so someone can book time with you to talk about joining your martial arts program? What I would suggest there is doing a resource assessment and identify what you're doing manually you could automate, or what you're doing automated, old school automation that maybe with the apps and the tools and technology available today, there's an upgrade that can make that even more efficient. Now that feeds right into the next one, which is rigid or outdated system or services. You know, it was recently reported, and I heard it on the news, that many of the U.S. government computers that are managing and running the U.S. government are so old they can no longer be repaired. Many of those are 1970s and 1980s technology, and there are very few people alive today that even know how to write the programming for those computers. That's what we refer to as a legacy system. But as you look around your business and as you look around your martial arts studio, what legacy systems exist in your business? Do you have old, outdated systems and services that you're using simply because you're unwilling to invest the money and automate something that could create an additional amount of time that you could use to be engaged in marketing, to be engaged in a podcast, to be engaged in doing things in your local community to expand your reach and influence? Older computer systems that I see in a lot of martial arts schools today are vulnerable to cybersecurity risk. What would happen if a ransomware attack hit your computer in your school and locked it up? All of your records and everything you needed had been captured and you had no way to access that information. What would you do? Are you using an older version of Adobe or Microsoft or QuickBooks or some other old antique software program just to save a few bucks? Are you still using a fax machine? Are you using a copier that you have to keep band-aiding together rather than going out and buying something that will actually work and speed up the processes in your business? Hey, take a look at the equipment. Are you putting so much duct tape on your heavy bag that nobody can see the heavy bag anymore and it just looks like duct tape rather than going out and buying a new one and again, adding quality to what you're bringing to the marketplace? You got to ask yourself this question: is there a better way? And I can tell you, for most of the school owners I talk to on a consistent and regular basis, the answer is yes. With the technologies we see today and the declining cost of upgrading most of the systems you've got, there's no reason that you should be limited in what you're able of doing to support your business. And as you look at the equipment available today, many of the tools that we need to teach and to trade, the quality of that equipment has improved dramatically over what may be sitting on your shelves. Now, the last of the seven is a lack of forward thinking. When you're content to leave things as they are, you're accepting the status quo. Carly Fiorina, who was the CEO of Hewlett Packard for many, many years and ran for president a few years ago, Carly wrote a book, and in the book she says, the status quo has great power. Now think about what that means. When we're willing to accept good enough for good enough, we're willing to accept average, mediocre, and lackluster. But Carly goes on in that book to say, but leaders challenge the status quo to change things for the better. Now think about it this way. When you're content to leave things as they are, and you're doing things exactly the same way you did it when you opened your school 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, you've accepted the status quo and you've accepted average, mediocre, and lackluster as the result. If your school is not growing and you're not seeing quality things come out of your school and there's not a wow factor anymore, you've accepted the status quo. And here's what I'm here to tell you. 95% of martial arts school owners are okay with the status quo. That's why there is no differentiation, which was the first misstep that we talked about earlier. One of my coaches, Christian Simpson, he's from England, an incredible guy. Christian says it well. He says, your business and the quality of life that it affords you and your family can never outperform the quality of thinking that you bring to it. Now think about what he's saying. Your business, your martial arts business, the studio that you run, and the quality of life that it provides for you, the money it gives you to live on, can never outperform the quality of thinking you bring to your business. That takes me back to what Albert Einstein talked about at the first of our time together. You can't solve the problems you created with the same level of thinking that created them. Now, Christian goes on to say this: don't develop the business before you develop the owner. What does he mean by that? It is a lack of forward thinking and looking at what's next. What could I do better? How can I improve in this area and make my school even better? That's the differentiator that's going to set you apart from any and everybody else in the marketplace. So you got to ask yourself, what's next? In my book, Black Belt Secrets of Success, the number one success principle, the most successful people who have ever lived and are living today practice in their lives is this: successful people do daily what unsuccessful people do sometimes or not at all. I want to say that again. Successful people, successful school owners do daily what unsuccessful school owners do sometimes or not at all. I love the way my mentor, Dr. John Maxwell, says. He says, the secret to your success is found in your daily routine. Now, think about that. If the secret to your martial arts success is found in your daily routine of how you run your business and how you teach your classes, you need to ask what's next and have some forward thinking for your martial arts business. They ask themselves the very three questions I opened with in this session. What can I learn today? How can I apply what I've learned? And what can I teach and share with someone else that I've learned? Now, I will say this, leaders are readers, and some of the most successful people in the world have committed themselves to being lifelong students of learning, and one of the best ways to learn is to read. More on that in another lesson. But here's the thing, whether you're reading a book, listening to a podcast, you need to be doing something every day to grow yourself, to stretch yourself so you can keep asking what's next and be able to answer that question by learning what you don't yet know. Now, let me wrap up with this. I want to begin back where we started, and I want to end right here. Every martial arts entrepreneur, every martial arts business owner wants to experience more success. But the success in your business is going to be predicated on you as the entrepreneur, not the school owner, but as the martial arts entrepreneur engaging in the daily activities that lead to success. Now, that means training every day so you hone your skills to a razor's edge and they stay there, but it also means you've got to spend an equal amount of time becoming a black belt master of running your business. Successful business owners are never willing to settle for good enough. They're going to continue to push forward to become better at who they are, to become better at what they do, so they can continue to serve their students and their fellow instructors at the highest level. But remember what the yin and the yang tell us. Inside of every successful opportunity, there's the potential for failure. But even when we fail, in that failure, there's an opportunity to learn and to grow, and the seed of success is oftentimes waiting inside that moment of failure. Missteps that we make in our business, in our life, those things can lead to failure. But here's what I'm here to tell you. Failure is an opportunity to start again, but this time with a little more intelligence. Going back to what we heard from Henry Ford. So I want you to think about what we shared in the 7 overlooked or ignored missteps and mistakes that you may be engaging in your martial arts business. And now you know how to look for them, and you've been given some tips to proactively address those and maybe even cover up the pothole and fill it so that that pavement is smooth as you're continuing to move forward. Let me leave you with this. Failure is an event. Successful people learn from failure. They apply what they've learned and they don't repeat the same mistakes again. They also teach what they've learned to other people so they can pass it on and help them not make those same mistakes as well. So what about you? Are you learning from your failures, or do you find yourself repeating over and over again? We talked about 7 business missteps in the time that we've been together. Number 1, a failure to differentiate. Number 2, poor planning, poor management. Number 3, poor or no employee motivation. Number 4, poor customer satisfaction. Number 5, inadequate resource allocation. Number 6, rigid or outdated systems or services. And number 7, a lack of forward thinking. Remember, these are the banana peels waiting to trip you up, and until you learn to recognize and take proactive action to remove those banana peels lurking in your business, you're destined to experience more slip-ups. Remember, 95% of business owners, martial arts instructors just like you who own a martial arts business, overlook or ignore these things. They make this excuse. It's just the way it is, and I can't do anything about it. Well, I love what Christian Robinson, a good friend of mine from Florida, says. It's not that you can't, it's that you won't. And that choice is yours. So here's my challenge to you. You've been taught the 7 business missteps. So what I want you to do now is to go back and have a heartfelt, candid conversation with yourself, your staff, your students, the parents in your school, and have an open conversation about, are these things lurking in my business, and what do we need to do to eliminate those? Now, if you've got any questions along the way, please feel free to reach out to us here at the United States Martial Arts Hall of Fame. Through our program, Black Belt Leadership, we've got some incredible tools and resources to help you learn to master the art of business development. And we're going to be bringing more tools and resources along those lines in a very near future. So, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to enlighten you. Now it's on you. I want you to take what you've learned, apply it, and then go teach it to someone else. I'm Dr. John Terry, President of the United States Martial Arts Hall of Fame, also known as the Black Belt Leader. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.